Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am Staff Sergeant Alan Dowdell from 1st Army. On behalf of Major General Christopher O. Mohan, Commanding General of the U.S. Army Sustainment Command and the host of today's event, welcome. Our other ceremony participants this morning would be Lieutenant General Antonio A. Agudo, Jr., Commanding General, 1st Army; Brigadier General Mary Krieger, Commanding General, Regional Health Command, Atlantic; and Colonel Vincent B. Myers, the United States Army Medical Department Activity Commander, Fort Campbell, and the Southwest Kentucky Market Director. Welcome to today's ceremony. Today, we have gathered to officially rename the Rock Island Arsenal Health Clinic as the Woodson Health Clinic in honor of Staff Sergeant Waverly B. Woodson, Jr. We would like to begin by extending a special welcome to the son of Waverly Woodson, Mr. Stephen Woodson, and his girlfriend, Catherine Babashan, who are in from Maryland for today's event. Additionally, welcome to our other distinguished guests. Please hold your applause until all names are read. Mayor Mike Matson, City of Davenport. Lieutenant General and Mrs. Antonio Agudo, Commanding General, 1st Army. Command Sergeant Major and Mrs. McDwyer, Command Sergeant Major, 1st Army. Lieutenant General Jody Daniels and Mr. John McCarthy, Chief, U.S. Army Reserve. Lieutenant General Retired and Ms. Thomas James, previous Commanding General, 1st Army. Lieutenant General Retired Michael Tucker, previous Commanding General, 1st Army. Lieutenant General Retired Mike Bernard, previous Commanding General, 1st Army. Representative Marionette Miller Meeks, Iowa District 41. Major General and Miss Chris Mohan, Commanding General, Army Sustainment Command, and Senior Mission Commander, Rock Island Arsenal. Command Sergeant Major and Miss Marco Torres, Command Sergeant Major, Army Sustainment Command. And welcome to all our Army leaders, Command Team, Rock Island Arsenal teammates here today. So many of you have turned out today in support of the Woodson family, and we are grateful for everyone here today. Finally, we will welcome and share our deep appreciation to the 101st Airborne Division Air Assault Quintet for today's ceremony. Ceremony music. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the honors to the nation and remain standing for the invocation given by Chaplain Major Robert Gibbs.
If you all would join me for a word of prayer. Gracious God, in the book of Romans, the Apostle Paul exhorted his readers to give to everyone what they are due, including honor to those who are due honor. Today, we ask that your presence be with us here as we honor the life, heroism, and selfless service of Staff Sergeant Waverly Woodson. We are thankful for his example and for the example of countless other veterans, many of whose stories may not be fully known. We are grateful for the opportunity to honor Staff Sergeant Woodson's legacy in such a fitting way. We ask that all those who see his name on the clinic walls and hear his story be inspired and empowered to embody the values and virtues to which we are all called. We ask all of this in your most holy name. Amen.
Please be seated. Before we officially dedicate the Rock Island Arsenal Health Clinic as the Woodson Health Clinic, it is important to share some history about Rock Island Arsenal. Rock Island Arsenal, a 946-acre island in the Mississippi River, was identified in 1809 as a federal military reservation by Act of Congress. It has played key roles in every major U.S. conflict dating back to the Black Hawk War of 1832. In 1969, the arsenal was placed on the National Registry of Historic Places. In 1989, the original arsenal buildings were designated as National Historic Landmarks. Rock Island Arsenal is an active U.S. Army garrison and remains our nation's largest government-owned and operated arsenal. The Rock Island Arsenal Health Clinic provides primary care services for more than 1,940 active duty soldiers, active duty family members, retirees, and retiree family members. Rock Island Arsenal Health Clinic supports several commands to include 1st Army, Army Sustainment, Army Contracting, Corps of Engineers, Joint Munition, and many other units. The team operates an occupational health clinic to civilian employees in addition to an industrial hygiene cell to support the civilian and military workers employed at the various factories on Rock Island Arsenal. Ladies and gentlemen, Major General Mohan, United States Army Sustainment Command, Commanding General, and Rock Island Arsenal Senior Mission Commander.
Okay. Sorry. Okay. All right. Hey, good morning, everybody. And just before I get started, I just want to say it is not only great to see a lot of old friends, a lot of great teammates, but it's also great to see this filled up room, and to see that with our entry into HPCon Alpha, we are now allowed to have ceremonies like this and fill our workspaces up and quite frankly be human beings again together. And so I am thrilled to see everybody here. And for Mr. Woodson, sir, I think if you look around, you can see that this is a really big deal. And we're here for you, and we're just so excited to have you here. So Mayor Madsen, great teammate, sir, thank you for being here. And look, I've got a whole list of people that I'm going to run down, and I'm only going to get the very top, but it's important to recognize fellow commanders, previous commanders who are now coming back to the Arsenal. And again, it's a big list, and so what I'm not sure is are they here for the ceremony, or are they here because they figured out that Agudo and Mohan needed a lot of extra supervision? So I'm going to say, sir, and maybe you'll join me, that it's because of the ceremony that all these folks are here. But Mayor Madsen, General Agudo, General Daniels, General Retired Thomas James, our keynote speaker, sir. Great to see you back at the Arsenal. General Bednarik, sir, always great to see you. General Tucker, thanks for being here. Command Sergeant Major McDwyer, sir, Sergeant Major, always great to see you. And of course, my teammate and battle buddy, Command Sergeant Major Torres. That's just a few of the folks that I want to recognize as we begin this great ceremony. So above all, though, I would like to personally thank and welcome Stephen Woodson from Frederick, Maryland, for being here today. This is a great day for our arsenal. It's a great day for our Army. And having you here, we were going to do this regardless because it's the right thing to do, but having you here just is the icing on the cake. So thank you. So please, let's give the Woodson family a big round of applause. So today, it is our distinct honor and privilege to name what was simply known as the Rock Island Arsenal Health Clinic for a true American hero, someone whose heroism has gone unrecognized for far, far too long. So I know that General James, who was kind enough to come back here to the Arsenal to speak at this ceremony, will have more to say about Waverly Woodson and his historic acts. But let me say that we are, in a way, we are righting a historic wrong. Unlike the Army that he served in, which regrettably actively practiced racial discrimination at the time, Sergeant Woodson did not consider skin color on the battlefield. He did not consider who he was treating when he committed and did his historic and heroic acts under withering fire on Omaha Beach. He did not consider that. And so today, and for too long, what he did that day was undervalued and underappreciated, yet the courage he displayed was of such magnitude that it simply could not be ignored forever, and it will not be ignored forever. So now, in some small way, we will try to make right by Waverly Woodson and give him his due by naming this clinic for him and dedicating it to his memory. I hope that everyone who passes through the doors of the Woodson Health Clinic learns about the man for whom is it named. And we're going to have this beautiful plaque that you're going to see later today that will highlight his exploits and the man that he was, and learns what it means to give all you have for the sake of others, despite facing the most difficult circumstances imaginable. What Waverly Woodson did on D-Day must never be forgotten, and we, who are able to live in freedom, can do so because of what he and others like him did in the past. And just a couple of days ago, I had the great honor of going out and meeting one of our Patriot flights. And one of the veterans' T-shirts said on the back of it, it said, "If you can read this, thank a teacher. If you can read this in English, thank a soldier." And so that statement bears true every day, and the American people know it, but we who serve really know it. And we're grateful for it. So all this means that we have what I see as a sacred duty to remember our veterans, remember those who came before us, and to assure that future generations also remember. Naming this as the Woodson Health Clinic is just one way of assuring that we will remember always and always pay homage to those who richly deserve it. So again, thank you all for being here. Thank you for everyone who put this ceremony together. The band, thank you for being here. You're always welcome. Come back, and we greatly appreciate everyone who made this ceremony possible. But most of all, thanks to the Woodson family for being here. And I want to say God bless you, and God bless our great country and our great Army. And with that, we're getting closer to the actual unveiling. So thank everyone for being here.
Thank you, sir. Today, Rock Island Arsenal Health Clinic is being renamed and dedicated in honor of Staff Sergeant Waverly B. Woodson, Jr. On June 6, 1944, Woodson, a 20-year-old First Army medic, stormed the beaches of Normandy. Gravely wounded on approach, he hastily set up a first aid station on Omaha Beach and got to work. He dragged the dead and wounded from the surf. He removed bullets, patched wounds, dispensed blood plasma, and even amputated one man's right foot. 30 hours after waiting on the beach, Woodson was on the brink of collapse from fatigue and blood loss when he saw 3 British soldiers drowning in the rough sea. He rushed to their aid, helped drag them ashore, and performed CPR. All survived. As one of few black soldiers in D-Day's first wave, Woodson's extraordinary acts of valor drew praise even from an army that at the time still segregated by race. The Army issued a rare press release praising the young medic for saving more than 200 casualties on the invasion beaches of France. Military awards Staff Sergeant Woodson received during his military service include the American Campaign Medal, Asiatic Pacific Campaign Medal, 2 Bronze Star Medals, European African Middle Eastern Campaign Medal with arrowhead device, Good Conduct Medal, Purple Heart, United Nations Medal, World War II Victory Medal. Mr. Woodson died in 2005. There is an ongoing effort in the U.S. House and Senate to award him the Medal of Honor for his actions on D-Day. And U.S. Senator Chris Van Hollen from Waverly Woodson's home state of Maryland asked us to share this statement today. Renaming this Army clinic is a fitting tribute to a man fully dedicated to serving his country and healing his countrymen. But we must do more to honor his service. Staff Sergeant Woodson's valor was never fully recognized due to the color of his skin, and that is unacceptable. It's past time that we right this historical wrong, and provide Waverly B. Woodson and his family with the recognition that his heroism merits. I've introduced bipartisan legislation to authorize the President of the United States to award Staff Sergeant Woods the Medal of Honor for his extraordinary heroism during World War II. It's essential that our nation pays tribute to someone who epitomized the very best of us. The renaming of this clinic is an important piece of that mission, and we must build on that success with further action. Ladies and gentlemen, Lieutenant General Retired Thomas S. James, Jr., Commander of 1st Army from October 2018 to July 2021.
I'll do a quick shout out to Sergeant Dowdle and his narration. I told him yesterday during the rehearsal, it's nice to have a narrator that can double as a bouncer. Steve and Catherine, thanks for being here and making this a very special ceremony extra special. Now, what do y'all think? Do y'all think Steve looks like his papa? I think so. There's a resemblance there. Was he about your height?
No, actually, he was only 6 foot.
Really? Well, I was looking up at you. I was like, goodness gracious. Oh, my goodness. Well, it's great to have you here. And Tony and Mel, thanks for inviting me to participate in this ceremony. And Chris, God bless you. Thank you for your service and what you do for the Arsenal. And all the leaders, your command sergeants majors and their great spouses, and everyone that's here today. And it is great to see it all filled. Because when I left here, we weren't doing this. And it's great to be back this way. I am more than 100% honored to participate in this ceremony. It is incredibly special to me personally, and it hits close to the heart for lots of reasons, and you'll hear that as I talk here for a second. But I'd like to start out by asking the audience, I want you to work with me for a little while. How many people in this room have seen the Steven Spielberg movie, Saving Private Ryan? Could I see a show of hands? Pretty much everybody. There are just a few that maybe haven't. Can you imagine? That was a Hollywood depiction of the unforgiving crucible of ground combat. Imagine it 100 times worse in reality. Now, what I'd like for you to do for me is I want to take you back to 6 June 1944. If you could just close your eyes for a second and imagine this. June 6, 1944, you're on an assault boat heading into the beaches of Normandy, Omaha Beach to be specific. That ramp drops, you exit the craft onto the beach. The hail of bullets, the pounding of artillery, smoke, sweat, blood, salt water, and you hear that cry that echoes every battlefield in our nation's history. Medic! Medic! And through the hail of bullets, the dirt, the sweat, the smoke, the pounding artillery, a young soldier shows up with his aid bag from Pennsylvania. Every ounce of his being is dedicated to saving the soldiers in his unit and the limbs of those in his unit. You can open your eyes. Where do people like this come from? For over 30 hours, over 200 soldiers that were wounded were treated, many lives saved, and then stabilized off to the next echelon of care. I am honored to have been in the same army with Waverly Woody Woodson and to wear that Block A patch that he wore on those days. So, good morning. Thank you all for being here, and welcome to all of you visiting Rock Island Arsenal on this special and historic day. I have to begin by acknowledging the family, as I have, of Staff Sergeant Waverly B. Woodson, as his son, and Catherine, for being here today. Now, Joanne Woodson is a force of nature, as you well know, Steve. At 94, her memory is just sharp enough and her energy endless enough to make this 50-something-year-old soldier feel completely inadequate. Joanne has worked tirelessly to ensure her late husband is remembered and acknowledged for his incredible bravery on D-Day. Now, only a pandemic and a trusted family physician advising her not to travel would keep her away from here today. And hopefully she's able to see it by video. And she's here in spirit for sure. Now, Mr. Woodson has two awesome children, Steve and Elaine, who grew up knowing their dad as someone who could do absolutely anything. Successful career at the National Institutes of Health, worked with art, photography, gardening, fixer, tinkerer, inventor extraordinaire. He was their hero long before they'd heard of a place called Omaha Beach. Steve, it's our honor to have you here today. Thank you, and God bless you and your entire family. Now, just down the street from us here is headquarters, 1st Army. When I walked into that historic limestone building back in 2018, I found myself in awe of the legendary soldiers who had been a part of its proud lineage. John Pershing, commander of all U.S. troops in France in World War I, and architect of the Allied victory. Omar Bradley, leader of the assault onto the beaches of Normandy. Courtney Hodges, the private who rose to general and blunted Germany's last major offensive during the Battle of the Bulge. Now, I used to joke that I could feel their eyes watching me from their framed photos. Sometimes I could hear them say, "James, don't screw this up." Then about a year into command, I saw a black and white newspaper photo of a proud, confident young soldier named Waverly Woodson. There was that iconic Block A patch on his left shoulder. And the story of what he had done on Omaha Beach, it was the kind of valor that made even the phrase "greatest generation" not seem descriptive enough. You all just heard the narrator describe what that young, wounded, and surely terrified 1st Army medic did on 6 June 1944. But I want to share with you a few more details about Mr. Woodson's story and life that's seared in my memory and as well on my heart. To start with, Waverly chose to serve at a time when he knew well in advance that it would be hard, that he would be segregated into units seen as less capable and less courageous. He volunteered anyway. He left pre-med studies at Lincoln University in his home of Philadelphia to enlist. He deeply wanted to serve, believing Nazi Germany was so evil that it was worth giving his life for, if need be. Yet from day one, America's then segregated army failed him. Waverly, who spoke fluent German, tested into this highly selected anti-aircraft artillery officer candidate school. So he was accepted to that school. But shortly before graduation, he was told he wouldn't commission. The Army was not comfortable with black officers commanding whites. Instead, Waverly was sent to train as a medic. That's how he came to be in the first wave on D-Day with mostly white soldiers. The one black unit, the 320th Barrage Balloon Battalion, would largely be forgotten in history until recent years. Of the more than 400 Medals of Honor awarded in World War II, none went to more than 1 million black troops who served. That wouldn't be corrected until 1997, when President Clinton upgraded 6 awards of African American heroes. Shortly after the victory in Europe, Waverly came home to the nation he'd bled for. But his homecoming was disappointing. He couldn't find a medical school to accept him, so he instead got a degree in biology. 5 years later, he was called back to active duty in the Korean War. His initial orders had him report to Fort Benning, Georgia, to train combat medics. But when he arrived and the unit realized he was black, he was sent to another job. The man who'd once saved hundreds of lives on the battlefield of D-Day was assigned to run an Army morgue. Now, I never had the honor of meeting Sergeant Woodson, but I know from his widow Joanne, has shared with us, he did not live his life with bitterness towards the Army or his nation. Shortly before his death, when he wrote out a personal history of his D-Day experience, he described combat as the great equalizer. The Army's prejudice just took a back seat as far as soldiers helping one another was concerned, he wrote. Waverly saw himself as an American success story. The young, dedicated medic may not have become the doctor he dreamed of, but he spent his life devoted to public health. There are still doctors at the National Institutes of Health who say they felt most comfortable performing high-stake procedures when Mr. Woodson was there to manage the operating room. Shortly before I retired, I visited the nation's capital, our nation's capital. I began my day in Section 69 of Arlington National Cemetery. The cherry trees had bloomed, and I could hear the mournful sound of taps in the distance. I, and with Command Sergeant Major, stood before Waverly Woodson's grave, where the headstone indicated his Purple Heart and Bronze Star. Certainly didn't seem enough, not near enough. But I've been deeply heartened to see the ongoing bipartisan efforts with Congress to upgrade his award to the Medal of Honor. And there's momentum that continues to build, and we got to continue to push it. It's hard to imagine actions that better embody the medal's heritage of gallantry in action, unwavering devotion, and extraordinary heroism. Now, if I could talk to Waverly Woodson today, I'd share a few things that have gone on. First, I'd tell him that the Army is a much different place today. In the 1990s, the force issued a scathing, self-critical report detailing how bad it had treated soldiers of color during World War II. Then I'd tell him an incredible story about his old unit, 1st Army. When I took command of that great unit, I took command from Lieutenant General Steph Twitty, a black officer whose own grandfathers had served in segregated units of the very organization that their grandson rose to lead. And finally, I tell them about today, about how we gathered to rename in his honor the health clinic that sits across the street from the unit with which he stormed the beaches of Normandy. Soldiers today who receive medical care on this island will do so in a facility dedicated to the memory of a man who once saved hundreds of them under fire in perhaps the most iconic military operation in history. I'll leave you with this. Whenever I talk to the troops in First Army when I was in command about the rich 104 years of history of First Army, I would always tell them the same thing. We all stand on the shoulders of giants. Well, Staff Sergeant Waverly Woodson may rise above all of them. First indeed, earn the A. Thank you very much. God bless the Woodson family.
Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, Brigadier General Mary V. Krieger, Commanding General for Regional Health Command, Atlantic.
Good morning again. General Gudo, General Monahan, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to be part of this incredibly meaningful ceremony. General James, thank you for giving us all that insight into the person who was Sergeant Woodson and what he did, and really the standard that he set for all of us medics. So this clinic, and Steve, pleasure to meet you this morning, and Kathy, and thank you so much for sharing your dad's memory with us and your legacy, and again, challenging us all to be better. And to your mom, Joanne, who I know will see this later, thank you for your tenacity in fighting to help us understand what your husband did and what he would challenge us to do moving forward. General Dempsey said, if you ever wanted to serve, now is the time. And so for Army Medicine, on behalf of Lieutenant General R. Scott Dingle, this is how we see this clinic, is our opportunity to serve you, to serve this community, to ensure that you are getting everything you need in order to defend our nation. Because as medics, we know that our primary job is not to be at the gun, but our primary job is to make sure that you who do that can, and that you who sustain the force have everything you need to be ready for the rigors of battle, that we will be shoulder to shoulder with you on the battlefield, and that when you come home, that we help you recover from the rigors of the battle. And that's exactly what this clinic here will do. This clinic here provides primary care, behavioral health, physical therapy, and all the arms of occupational health that are so critical to the operations here at Rock Island Arsenal. And through this last year, as this clinic has really reinvigorated its commitment to what you need, it is so fitting that it will live on and to support the legacy of a soldier like Sergeant Woodson. So all this is a testament to his service, to his commitment, in face of an army that did not recognize him for what he was doing at the time. But now we have a chance to learn from our past and to ensure that our future is better. So in dedication to the actions, because we know of the actions on D-Day, but that didn't happen on one single day. You know that that was just one representation of the character that all of us as medics hope to embody in service to you, in service to our nation, in service to our families. So thank you again for this opportunity, and we look forward to continuing to serve in Sergeant Woodson's legacy. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. At this time, we will unveil the Woodson Art Dedication that will be displayed at the Woodson Health Clinic. Would Mr. Stephen Woodson, Major General Mohan, Lieutenant General Gudo, Retired Lieutenant General James, and Colonel Myers please join Brigadier General Krieger near the flag line to do the honors. Also, at this time, Lieutenant General Gudo will present a commemorative coin on behalf of 1st Army to Mr. Stephen Woodson, Staff Sergeant Woodson's son. Ladies and gentlemen, the Rock Island Arsenal Health Clinic is now officially renamed the Woodson Health Clinic. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Stephen Woodson, Waverly B. Woodson's son, who would like to say a few words on behalf of his family.
I'm going to adjust this a little bit since I'm vertically endowed here. Well, I'm beyond, almost beyond words. This is somewhat overwhelming, but I is very, very appreciative, and I send my deepest respects for my family for having everything take place. There are a lot of people that I've met here this morning. I will remember all of you for forever. But there are a few key points that I'd like to acknowledge, and that'd be the Army Medical Command, the team at Blanchfield Army Medical Center, Army Sustainment Command, Rock Island Arsenal Garrison, the 1st Army, and in special, Kirsten Hampton. Kirsten has been a liaison with my family for several occasions when the wreaths and ceremonies were laid at my dad's resting place in Arlington Cemetery, as well as today. So she's been instrumental with bringing our family to you. So thank you, Kirsten. I do want to say, General James, you're a tough act to follow. So I'm going to do my best. I'm going to kind of keep this brief. My dad's contributions to World War II were well documented and well stated, far more so than what I could probably do myself today. We're very, very appreciative of everything that people have brought forward and brought to light about my dad. But what I wanted to do was maybe share a little bit more of the personal side of my dad that I don't think very many people in this room, other than Kathy, knows about. One of the foremost things is my dad typically didn't speak a lot of his participation in World War II until his later years in life. In particular, on the, I believe it was the 75th anniversary of D-Day. I may have that part wrong, but he was sponsored by the French government to actually go to France. And he was one of 4 gentlemen from the services, and he actually went there and had a great time. But he actually started to open up more about that after he came back. And a lot of things that he participated in I really didn't know about through most of my adult life. But he was very, very proud to be a member and to serve in the First Army. He had spoken of that often. We still have his First Army uniform. It's hanging in my mom's closet as we speak. So that's how important it was to him. One of the things I did want to share with you is that one of my dad's goals and aspirations was to become a doctor and then eventually a surgeon. Circumstances didn't allow him to do that, as it was stated by General James previously. But he still had a very successful medical career. One of the things that after he had left his service in World War II and he had gone to Lincoln University, the Korean War broke out. And he was actually went back into the service for 2 years. During those 2 years, as General James had mentioned, he was stationed at the Army Medical Center in Washington, D.C. And he ran the morgue there and performed a lot of autopsies. Crazy story, when he and my mom left, that's one of the places he took my mom on their first date, was to the morgue. So, yeah, so my dad was a character. He had his moments. And I will never forget her description of that. He actually took her into the morgue in the dark and then flipped the light switch on, and there was eyes just staring at her everywhere. So, but she still loved him. He had a very distinguished career after post-World War II. He worked for Navy Medical Center also, and then he transferred over to NIH. That's where he spent the last 38 years of his medical career, and was very, very successful and fulfilling there with him. My dad had a lot of hobbies, and he was always busy doing something. He loved to garden. He loved roses in particular, which I have a fondness for to this day. He also liked to do a lot of things with me, childhood activities, sports, many different things. We used to do a lot of racing. And he was always the person that financed everything, and he was the mechanic. And I had the luxury of being a person actually having all the fun. So I thought, I'll share a real quick little story with you. My dad loved to kind of live vicariously through me, as he was a little kid at heart. And one thing in particular, we used to race these little slot cars back in the 60s and 70s. There's tracks all over the country. And my dad knew that he had his place. He would, like I say, he was the one that actually bought everything, and was the mechanic. And every now and then my mom and him would come to the races with us. And in particular, this one night we went to the race, and he started driving my car before I even got a chance to do it. And he just held onto the throttle and forgot to let off and stuck the car in the ceiling. And so that ended our night of racing. My mom just looked at him and went, "Waverly." But after that, we had a time where he bought a little Cox airplane, which was actually a tether operated, before the days of radio-controlled planes. And he wanted to be the first one to go out and actually fly it. So I stood there patiently watching him and started it up, and he was doing really good. He was flying it around. He started getting confident. Now, this airplane looked like one of the old Flying Tigers from World War II. So he took it way up in the air. All of a sudden, it turned, and it started coming straight at the ground. And he couldn't pull it out of the dive. It stuck it in the ground about a foot deep. And I just stood there and looked at that. And one thing, he looked at me after that and said, "There's two things I want you to learn from this." He said, "One is don't ever become a race car driver." He said, "Number two, you might want to think about joining the Air Force." He said, "Because this potentially could happen to you." So he was a very, very, very good father, a loving father and devoted husband, and had a good life. In closing, I'd like to again thank everybody that's made this come to fruition. It's a culmination of his career, and I know he's looking down on us and smiling. So I'd like to thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, and congratulations to the Woodson family. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the playing of the Army song. Remain standing. Sing a song, we're the army of the free. Count the brave, count the true, who have fought to victory. We're the army and proud of our name. We're the army and proudly proclaim. First we fight for the right and to build the nation's might, and the army goes rolling along. Proud of all we have done, fighting till the battle's won, and the army goes rolling along. And it's high, high, hey, the army's on its way. Count off the gate is out of strong. For wherever you go, you will always know that the army goes rolling along. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes our ceremony. Thank you to the Woodson family for your service and sacrifice to our nation. And thank you all for attending today. The Woodson Health Clinic staff invites you to join them in Building 110 for refreshments and a tour of the clinic. Thank you.